Now we'll practice a little bit with what's called general form. We've seen point slope form, we've seen slope intercept form, y equals mx plus b, and now we're looking at something called general form, ax plus by plus c equals 0, where a, b, and c are real numbers. So that's the formal official definition. In practice, you'll see that we also customarily get rid of our fractions, clear our fractions in here. So if you end up with an equation in general form with fractions, you can simply clear the fractions. Because we have an equation, you can multiply both sides of your equation by your LCD to clear fractions, just to make your equation look a little prettier. All right, so for number 12, it says find the slope and the y-intercept of the line 2x minus 3y minus 8 equals 0. And notice that this equation is in general form. For general form, all of our terms are on the left side of the equation, equals 0 on the right side. Sorry, let me erase that. Emma looks crazy. That's a little better. Okay, so we start with general form. We're asked to find the slope and y-intercept. Anytime we're asked for those two pieces of information, your technique is you can solve that equation for y and get those two pieces of info pretty quickly and easily. So first I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides, so negative 3y minus 8 equals negative 2x. Next I'm going to add 8 to both sides, so I have negative 3y equals negative 2x plus 8. And as a last step, I'm going to divide all the way across by negative 3, so everything gets divided by negative 3. So now I have my equation in slope-intercept form, y equals negative 2 divided by negative 3 would be positive 2/3 x. Positive 8 divided by negative 3, I'm going to put minus 8/3. So we just took our equation in general form, rewrote it in slope-intercept form. And now I can pick out that my slope is 2/3 and my intercept is 0, negative 8/3. So my slope is positive 2/3. My y-intercept in ordered pair form would be 0, negative 8/3. For number 13, find the slope and y-intercept of the line 5x plus 2y plus 6 equals 0. We start off with a line in general form. We'll solve this for y. So I'm going to subtract 5x from both sides. And just to save a little space, I'm going to go ahead and subtract 6 in the same step. So this gives me 2y equals negative 5x minus 6. Now I'm going to divide all the way across by 2. So this gives me y equals negative 5 over 2x minus 3. Negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. So my slope is negative 5/2. My y-intercept is 0, negative 3. All right, so now we're going to look at equations in general form and graph from general form. And you might see in the instructions, if you see something like this first example where it says to graph 3x minus 4y minus 12 equals 0, you'll see in the instructions it will say graph using your intercepts. And this is really important. If you're told in the instructions to graph using your intercepts, that means you have to graph using your intercepts. So a lot of students look at something like 3x minus 4y minus 12 equals 0, and their instinct is to solve for y first. But if we're told to graph using our intercepts, then solving for y is actually not going to help us. That's going to take us in the wrong direction, okay? So if you're told to graph using intercepts, here's our different approach. So we're starting in general form, ax plus by plus c equals 0. Step 1, we're going to move the constant term c to the other side of the equation. So that means I'm just going to add 12 to both sides. So I get 3x minus 4y, and I don't need that positive, equals positive 12. All right, step 2, use the finger method to find the x and y intercepts. So I can't show you this on the screen because you can't see my finger. But if we're fixing x equal to 0, like we're doing here in this table, so if we want to set x equal to 0, that basically means this term disappears. So I could just cover it up with my finger, and I'm left with the equation negative 4y equals 12. And if I solve this equation by dividing both sides by negative 4, I would solve and get y equals negative 3. Okay. Now I'm going to do this again, only I'm going to set y equal to 0. So that means this y term goes away. I'm left with the equation 3x equals 12, and when I divide both sides by 3, I solve and get x equals 4. Right? So these are my two intercepts, 0, negative 3, and 4, 0. Intercepts have zeros in the coordinates. So graphing, I have 0, negative 3, and then I have 4, 0. And I connect these two, graphing my straight line, okay? So if you're told to graph using the intercepts, you have to graph using the intercepts. Sounds obvious, but don't solve for y because that might not give you the two intercepts, okay? So looking at number 14, graph x plus 2y plus 6 equals 0. And I'm going to tell you guys that you need to graph using the intercepts. Okay, so let's say we see this in the instructions, graph using the intercepts. So first I'm going to rewrite this as x plus 2y equals negative 6. If I set x equal to 0, and you can imagine covering up that x term, that leaves me with the equation 2y equals negative 6. And if I solve 2y equals negative 6, I get y equals negative 3. Now, if y equals 0 and I cover up that 2y term, I'm left with the equation x. There's no more plus 2y. I covered it up. So just x equals negative 6. And no more work to be done. That's just negative 6 for x. So these are my two intercepts, 0, negative 3, and then negative 6, 0. I'll go ahead and draw my straight line passing through those 2 points. Now again, if you're told to graph using your intercepts, I don't want you to solve for y first. Suppose you ignore me and you solve for y here. Okay, so you take x plus 2y plus 6, you solve it for y. So you start off with 2y equals negative x minus 6, divide by 2 all the way across. So y equals negative 1/2 x minus 3. And then you go to graph and you get 0, negative 3. And then you use your slope of negative 1/2 to go down 1 and to the right 2. Is this a point on my line? Sure. Is this an intercept? No. So if you use those 2 points in yellow to graph that equation and you're asked to use intercepts, you gave me the wrong answer. You graphed using 2 points on the line, but not specifically 2 intercepts. This is an intercept. This is an intercept. So those are my 2 intercepts. This is not an intercept. It's a valid point on my line, but it's not an intercept.